Hello, my name is Nick Yunez, and this is my video project for WRA 110. I will be trying to spread the word on electronic medical records and the privacy policy of HIPAA and how it aims to guarantee a patient an array of rights to that information. First, I want to briefly explain what HIPAA is really quickly. HIPAA is a privacy policy rule that provides the federal protections for personal health information that gives patients an array of rights in respect to that information. And at the same time, the privacy rule is balanced so that it permits the disclosure of personal private information that is needed for patient care and other purposes. And that's what I'm going to stress the most, what I deal with on a weekly basis at my research group that I am a part of here at MSU. At MSU here, 3 times a week, I work at this research project at Sparrow Hospital and at the Sparrow Arts Medical Building. They're 2 separate buildings, but they're pretty much run by the same people. The first clinic I work at is the residency clinic, and that is at the Sparrow Arts Medical Building. And when I have constant interaction with patients, and I'm exposed to a good amount of their personal information, so I need to be on top of these protocols at all time, making sure I'm not making them uncomfortable in any way. And at times it happens, and it's important to follow these rules because there are a lot of consequences that can follow if you don't. So whenever I am presented with a potential participant, it's a pregnant mother who is here on her first trimester checkup. So usually these tend to be more tense and more not easy to deal with, so to say, just because what they're going with at the time. First trimester is always the roughest of the 3. So first thing I always need to present to them is this HIPAA form. And this HIPAA form guarantees them that whatever personal information that we are being disclosed to will not be exposed to outside the parameters of the research project. And the women that we deal with sometimes are not up to the same level of education as some of us, so you have to really break it down to them word by word in the most simplest way possible to make them understand that their private information will not be disclosed outside the parameters of the research project. The first thing I always need to stress is the name of the principal research leader. He's the one you go to if you have any problems. He's the one that runs the entire project. He's the one that is the guy to go to. Aside from that, this form on the back provides not incredibly personal information, but just basic information: name, address, date of birth, and the most sensitive information is the social security number. And the only reason we require these women to provide us with their social security number is so that we can access their baby's birth certificate once the baby's born, to make sure that it's the right mother with the right child, and we can follow up on the child after it is born. The second form is it's the same form, but this one is for a different clinic. It's for the faculty clinic, which is actually at Sparrow Hospital. So it's the same, exact same scenario I have to present to them: name of the principal research leader, the aim of the project, and this HIPAA form. And I cannot proceed until they sign these forms and give me their consent to continue on with more sensitive information that directly pertains to their medical history. The next form that I present to them is this questionnaire. And this questionnaire is where she will disclose to the research group as best she can a very brief medical history of her current history at the moment. And pretty much the things I need to always be very on top of is her social security number, her baby's due date, highest level of education that they have completed, do they own a home, their annual household income, current marital status. This is very sensitive information that, if you're unmarried and you're making less than $25,000 and you did not finish high school, some people may not want others to know that, and that's perfectly fine. That's your right to privacy. And that's what we try to guarantee in a healthcare setting, always under the HIPAA privacy policy. Aside from that, there's information about weight, height. Was this pregnancy planned? I mean, that's a pretty personal question, and that it's important to the research group to know that when they're assessing her specific situation. But she may not be comfortable releasing that. But we need to guarantee her that it will not be released outside the confines of the actual research. And then there's a brief medical history here. This is mostly a psychological, psychiatric medical history, history of autism, mental retardation, cerebral palsy, just so they can really break it down as best they can. Some people, usually participants, leave these areas blank just because it does not pertain to them, or they're just really not interested in releasing that information, which is perfectly fine. And then at the end of the form, it's information about their parents, their mother's maiden name. Sometimes they're uncomfortable releasing that information and then they just leave it blank, and that's fine, but it's best so we can always try to locate these women after they enroll, because most of them, move or don't continue with the project after they enroll. The next form I am going to show you is this. It's taken from the Sparrow Hospital College Volunteer Handbook. And this is when I was first exposed to the HIPAA privacy policy. And the first page of the handbook is the confidentiality and HIPAA standards bullet points. And there's about 12 or 13 bullet points, or actually 14 bullet points, that are broken down that volunteers must always follow under the HIPAA privacy policy. Granted, we do not have any specific medical training as college volunteers. We are subjected to a lot of information that we must keep within the confines of the hospital or the healthcare clinic that we are working at as not only volunteers but as representatives of MSU. Now, how this all ties into electronic medical records is where I'm going next. After I finish enrolling these women, getting their personal information, giving them their compensation, which is a $10 Meijer gift card. It doesn't sound like much, but every time they are willing to spend 15-20 minutes with us, we give them another $10 Meijer gift card. So there's like little incentives to come back and actually give us some time and some feedback and so on and so forth. So after I gathered her information from the HIPAA forms and that questionnaire, I have to log on to a statistical database designed by MSU. It's called RICS. It's just a way of electronically entering those forms onto this database, and it pretty much is a way for the actual researchers of the project to access this information. And then aside from that information, she also, the other thing we collect from her are her blood and urine samples that are extra that normally go to waste after she sees her family practitioner. So we're also responsible for that and transporting that to the appropriate sites where they are transported then to the researchers at MSU and so on and so forth. So aside from the paper forms, we also have to are responsible for those two types of biological specimens, which is not that complicated. It's just they're nicely stored in containers and plastic bags. All I have to do is store them in a refrigerator that's down the hallway from the office where I work at, and then they take it to MSU. So it's nothing complicated. But it's like a lot of procedure.